There is a fly that is killing me. It's so small and I haven't been able to get it. Hey Hodies, welcome to my channel. My name is hautemesstom. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you are new here, my channel is normally about loving my makeup collection as it is, but every now and then there's a makeup release that really gets me going and I feel compelled to purchase it, but I always try to make sure that when I am buying something to add to my makeup collection that I'm making the best selection possible. So what I'm going to be doing today is checking in with you about my current feelings about the ISAMAYA Beauty products that I bought. If you want to see my first impressions video, that's going to be the better video if you're looking for like swatches and talking about things like that and like how things go on. I think that's going to be a better representation of that. So if you want to see that, I will link it in the cards and in the description box for you if you want to go see that. I encourage it. But if you've already watched that video and you want to see where I am now, here we are. We're going to do it. But before we jump into the video, if you are not subscribed to me and my content sounds like the kind of content you get on with, I would love to have you subscribe. And I just ask that you like this video if you are already here and make sure you do it before you leave. And I'm also on Patreon if you would like to support me there. Real quick side note, I'm currently nominated for a couple categories for City Paper's Best of Pittsburgh, and in the top part of my description in the links down below, there will be a Best of Pittsburgh link, and if you would please take the time to vote for me for Best Lifestyle Influencer, Best YouTube Account, and I'm also in the category Thirst Trap. We are trying to win that one. I'd really appreciate for you to vote for me there. I also am nominated in Best TikTok Account, and I'm actually going to ask you to not vote for me for that category. I don't do TikTok. It's not something I take very seriously. And I don't know the other creators who are in the Best TikTok Account, but if they are people who are really trying to make really great content for TikTok, I would much prefer that one of them win that category and get the votes. So just skip that one if you don't want to vote for anyone. I would appreciate that. Okay, let's get into my continued thoughts. The reason I'm calling these my continued thoughts is because our relationship with our makeup items is constantly changing. How I feel about these items today might not be how I feel about them in a few months from now, and that's how I'm talking about it. So while this is like a final review and I'm going to give you my experiences with these products with the past month, I also think it's really important to talk about how these products make me feel as part of my review, as opposed to just being like very theoretical and being like, this does this, this does that. Because I actually don't think that's a very interesting way to review eyeshadow. I think it's a really great way to review foundation. If you've ever watched one of my foundation reviews, I'm trying to give you as much detail as I can about that. But with eyeshadow, I feel particularly, a lot of people are very comfortable using a wide variety of types of formulas. So like what I think is a good formula might not be what you think is a good formula. Like, so like, for example, I like Viseart shadows. I know there are a lot of people who don't get on with Viseart shadows. So I think sometimes talking about the formula in relation to like, it's a good formula when it comes to eyeshadows isn't really good, because there are people who really love the ColourPop eyeshadow formula, and that's not a formula I would get on with. But I really want to discuss about how things make me feel. We'll jump into the easier of the two things that I bought. Let's talk about the Rubberlash. I have been really enjoying this mascara, and it actually has been really annoying to me that has been the case. And why I find that to be annoying is because this is a $39 mascara. I like a luxury mascara, but I like cap at 30, maybe 32 would be the most I would spend on a mascara. 39 just feels incredibly steep, especially with like something that is something you have to replace a lot. And when it comes to Rubberlash and it comes to the way that ISAMAYA is planning on releasing her line, I don't know if I'll ever be able to buy this again. To quickly touch back on that, ISAMAYA had said that her makeup line is going to work like fashion lines. So like this is like the summer release. And then it will be no more. There will be no more of this. And then it will be whatever the next collection is. So the Rubberlash might not be in the next collection. So I am a little bit, I think this is a strange choice of this type of product to put in your makeup collection if that's how you intend on releasing your makeup line. Because I view mascara as a staple product. Mascara is one of those items that when people find them and they really like them, that's something that they're going to highly repurchase. It's kind of the foundation for many brands. If you have a mascara that a lot of people like, people are buying that every 3 months, every 6 months, every year. Like they're buying that product a lot. Even people who don't wear a lot of makeup will maybe treat themselves to a nice mascara and their favorite one. I'm a little bit unsure about how I feel about mascara being in one of the releases, but I actually bought this because my last mascara was like at the end of the 3-month mark. So I was just like, it makes sense for me to buy this mascara at this time. Instead of just like trying to find another one, I figured I would review it. So I've already said that I really like it, and I do. However, I don't know that my lashes ever looked like the marketing did. So in the marketing, it's like the lashes are really long and like kind of spidery. And when I bought this mascara, that's what I was expecting, and I really wasn't expecting to like it. But I feel like my lashes have always looked really good when I do it, and I actually am quite fond of the wand. So the wand is like one of those like rubbery C-curved like chunky guys, and with synthetic like rubber bristles. And I know that that's not everyone's favorite thing, but I felt like it did a really good job keeping my lashes separated, adding length and volume, but like nothing so intense. But I also am a one layer of mascara kind of person. I know there are a lot of people who like turn into an alchemist when they're layering their mascaras. That's not me. I'm like a one coat and done kind of person. Like every now and then I will try layering it up. And I did layer it up, and I was able to get like a more editorial effect when I did that. But I think it looks really good for the everyday. It had great longevity. It didn't like fall off of me. I did read in my comment section of my first impressions that one person had said that the mascara really didn't work out for them. That wasn't my experience. The only time it kind of like faltered, but this is like any mascara, is like I went out. It's really humid in Pittsburgh right now, like with the heat. And so it did transfer to like my brow bone, because my eyelashes are long enough that like when my eyes are open, it hits there. But it didn't do that if like if I wasn't like outside for extended periods of time. It only did that when I was like outside, like a little bit moist, you know? And that's like if I was like moist like that, like in the humidity, it like would transfer a little bit, but it did like rub right off. I really didn't have any issues with that. Like, and again, that's happened to me with most mascaras I've tried whenever I'm out in that humidity. So also there's ways to combat that. I could have powder more around my eyes, but if you're new here, I really like a dewy look. I guess you probably could have deciphered that just from looking, if you can see me. This is a mascara that if it wasn't $39 and if I was sure of its future, could be something that I would buy again in the future, maybe like every now and then as a treat. But as it stands, I have no idea if I can do that. Another thing is, you may have noticed that these are normally pierced. So this piercing thing, this little ball kept falling out and it was like really annoying. So I just like took the piercing part out of it. And like, that's fine. That's neither here nor there. Like I didn't really feel like this added anything to the experience for me, but it was kind of annoying that it kept like popping off and being annoying like that. So I guess it's like a little bit of a down point. So is it worth $39? I don't know that that is true, but am I enjoying it now that I have it? Yes. But am I someone who's like wants to talk about mascara like this? Like for extent? No, I am pretty utilitarian in my makeup collection when it comes to mascara. It's like, I have one, it works, it's high quality, that's all I need it to do. But I'm not out here trying like 10 to 15 mascaras at a time. I like have one mascara open, this is the mascara I have open, and I like it. Let's talk about what most of you are probably here to hear my thoughts on. Let's talk about the ISAMAYA Industrial Colour Pigment Palette. And I am sure if you are one of my subscribers and you watch a lot of my videos and you've watched my journey with this palette, I love it. I love it. And I'm going to talk about my feelings first, and then I'll get into some of the nitty-gritty details about why, and like perhaps some pros and cons for everyone too. I love it for what it is, but I also don't think it's for everyone. So you have to like, I need you to hear me out just a little bit here. So first and foremost, let's actually just talk about my feelings. I have never been so excited to have an eyeshadow palette. And it was something when I bought it online, I was like really excited about the way that ISAMAYA was presenting this brand. But I did think this packaging was stupid. I was like, it can't be that good. I'm not sure that I'm gonna like it. Well, it turns out that this color story is like really ideal for me, and it just sparks so much creativity. I have worn this eyeshadow palette many times. I'm gonna get it. You know, all of my videos, I'm like killing some bug. I feel like when I play around with this color story, I'm just always so excited about it. And I feel like I've done many different looks with it, and I just have had so much fun exploring it. And that is like my feelings. And I have said this, and I truly believe it. I have never had an eyeshadow palette, like once I started playing with it, where I thought I could fully see myself going through every single one of these eyeshadows until I hit pan. And I would feel so good about that. Like, not like I want to love this palette until it's like on its last leg and like there's only like this much left of one of the eyeshadows because I'm gonna love it until that day. Like, that's how I feel about it right now. That's how I feel about it right now. Like, I love it that much. I also did a video where I tried to dupe out this palette with my collection I already have after I had it to try to get as close as I can. I was fully able to dupe the vibes, I would say is like a better way to do it. Thank you, HLP, for coining the term duping the vibes. I feel like I duped the vibes of it, but it wasn't exact, but it still filled this like sooty, grungy, inky, like, you know, what I was able to do still fulfilled that. But when I'm talking about single shadows, whenever you do that activity, sometimes you dupe the vibe and you find out that this is a color story that's really worthwhile, and having all of these shades together in the same place is like the way that these eyeshadows are going to work best for you. But my single shadows, they eventually get put back into their home, right? And so this makes a lot of sense for me, where it might not make as much sense for you. You might be really drawn into this color story and think that it's something that you're going to use a lot, but maybe you dupe the vibes of it and you use your version of the color story just like a couple of times and it doesn't really inspire you. Then you don't need this, but you really wanted to try the color story. And I think that's really great. And I really suggest duping the vibes before you purchase something that's $115, right? If you have the ability to, if you have the makeup collection where you can try and you have enough colors in your collection to make that happen, then I highly recommend that you do that before you would purchase this. And I just want to throw that out there because my channel is not out here like trying to tell you what to buy. So while this adds value to my life, you have to do the work to really recognize whether or not that this would add the same amount of value to your life that it does mine. Let's talk a little bit about the eyeshadow palette in general. Basically, all of these shades are shimmery shades, and there's a bunch of interesting formulas. I think there are 10 formulas. There's 14 shades. I enjoy it. So I will say this. There's these two black shades, and I thought they were powders, but I don't think they are. They're like, are they creams? I'm not really sure. They're very interesting. I wouldn't call them like a straight up matte. There's like no kick up, and then if you can see, if my camera will focus, there's like little divots from where my brush went in, like leading me to believe that it's like a creamy shade, but it doesn't like, it picks up on like a really fluffy brush, not just like dense brushes where I feel like creams, you really need like a dense brush to get it. And if you use a dense brush, you get more pigmentation, but you can definitely take your time building up pigmentation with something that's a little bit fluffier, which is what I tend to do. These two shades, I wouldn't call them incredibly pigmented. I think you can build them up, but I feel like when you're putting them on your eye, you really get that grungy, greasy feeling when you're using them. Like you could just take your fingers and smear it over your eyes and it would be like the coolest look that you would ever do. And that's how I feel about them. But if you're looking for the most pigmented black, and that is what is important for you whenever you're buying an eyeshadow palette like this, then I don't think you're gonna get the satisfaction of that with these. Can you build them up to be super pigmented? Absolutely. But I think what's really beautiful about them is like that almost like grease slick quality of how they apply. They're really easy to blend out. So I have the blue. So this shade is like a black with a like navy sparkles in it, and that's what I did the outside of my eyeshadow look today. And it was really easy to blend out. It's really easy to work with. And it's like, while it sounds like a really funky formula that you might be like, wait, I'm not really sure if that's something that I would like, I've been getting on with it really well. And I feel like it almost blends out easier and gives me a softer blend than a lot of the powder shadows that I like. So like, I think they're even easier than that. Which, when you're working with colors like this, these dark colors, I think that's a blessing. Because oftentimes the deep colors are the ones that are really hard to blend out, especially with someone as fair skin as me. Like, if you're not blending, you're gonna see that blunt cut right where it hits. I really get on with those. I would say if you are someone who doesn't like a lot of sparkle, if sparkle fallout bothers you, then this isn't it. Like, it's not gonna be it for you. You're fighting an uphill battle if that's something that you don't like, but you wanna try this. I don't view like sparkle fallout as something that is like truly negative, but I am someone who does my eyes first. So I would say that if you are really concerned about that and you need to clean that up before you do the rest of your face, then you should do your eyes first with this palette because there is so much glitter. I want to walk you through some of my favorite shades now. We talked about like the blacks, but this silver is like this weird chunky formula with like really flaky and really creamy, and like I have a pretty good dent going in it already. It's the shade that like every time I would pick up this palette I'd be like, well, how can I work that silver in? And it takes a lot of work for me to open this palette and like not want to go directly for that, because one, I like to push myself with this palette because it sparks creativity, and I'm like, well, if I'm using the silver every time, I can only be so original with the silver. The silver is like A1, like very fun to play with, a really interesting formula, really, but it also works really well. It works exactly as you think it's going to work. It's really, really nice. Now there's a spider. I'm dying here. This blue shifty white pigment is also a shade that I have really been enjoying. It's what's on my inner corner today, but I also put it on top of this green shade to bring it down just a little bit. So it has a little bit of a blue shift to it whenever I turn my head. Now, I don't find that this like shifty shade a completely unique original thought, but the formula of this one is really nice and I really have enjoyed having it in the palette. But I have other formulas that have a similar idea to it, but it's very, very nice. I really have enjoyed having it in the palette. I've enjoyed throwing it on all of these just to make them look different, and it's been fun every single time. Specifically when I topped the copper shade on my first impressions video, I was like, it did something very cool and interesting and unique, and I thought that was really great, and I like really loved that. So I've been really enjoying that. This green is also truly wild. Like, it's on my lids now. It's a little bit dimmed by having that blue on top of it, but that was because that's what I wanted. I felt the green looked a little too poppy today. It wasn't really what I was going for. Fingers or brush, this green goes on fully pigmented. It's beautiful. Speaking of fingers, this is a very finger-friendly palette. If you are someone who likes to do your eyeshadows with your fingers, you could do your whole eye with this. Like, if you really like a blown out look, or you're gonna do something like that feels really grungy and like, you know, do that. Very finger painting friendly. And even on the instructions on the box, it was like, use your fingers. Like, it suggests that you use your fingers. This shade is really interesting. It's like this really sparkly, like many colors happening inside of it. I'm like afraid of it, but it really gives a beautiful effect. I have it on a little bit outside of the green today, and it's really, really pretty. Probably the one that's hardest to control overall. It's like, perhaps formula-wise, the least interesting and elegant. It's kind of like not it. It's like where this is like chunky with purpose, I feel like this is like chunky, like less elegant. The gold and copper shades are like, they're like not the most interesting to me, but they're very beautiful. And whenever I did some pretty normal looking eyes with this to see if it was something that I was just wanted to know if I wanted to wear this to the office, could I get away with it? And I think you can with like the bronzes and the golds if you were like really light-handed with them, that's something that you could pull off. But I would say if you are looking to buy this to have it to be the most versatile palette, I don't think that that's what you should be looking for this for. This is definitely for like someone who really wants to have fun and be grungy and like do dark colors. Like, that's what I think you should, if you're interested in this palette and that's what you want from it, you're gonna get it. But I do think if you're like, I want it to do all of the things, I don't think it's that versatile, right? You have to be really interested in pursuing a specific look, which is why I love the idea of this palette, which is why I think that's why I get on with it so well, because it's like, ooh, like, I always feel like I'm not cool enough to do a grungy look, and my instinct is to like go pretty. Anytime I do an eyeshadow look, like my instinct is to like go pretty, and this really encourages me to go out of my comfort zone because the colors, well, really stunning. I wouldn't call them pretty colors, right? I don't think that that's what they fit into in the color world. They're not like the pretty girl stunning. But there are two shades in here. I believe they are the same formula. It's this one and this one. So both of these have like, this one has a little bit of pigmentation, but this one has none. It's just like a shimmer suspended in like glycerin, and that's like how it applies to your lids. These get really lost in the sauce because all of these other textures in the palette really take over. And so when you're layering this on top to like add something to it, it's like that doesn't really do anything. So this on top of the black that doesn't have any sparkles in it, sure, like it definitely does something. But this on top of the orange, I like this rust color, I don't really find that it like really is that effective. Same with the green. It's like you can use it as like oh, this is the one I meant. Sorry, this is the one. I like put my finger in the wrong one. This is like the green version of that gold one, where it's just like green glitter suspended, that there's no pigment to them. So yeah, so I don't really know how they add to this palette, because I do think like perhaps if the glitter particles were larger, they'd be more effective as like really showing up. But whenever you have all of these other beautiful textures, I just feel like they're not doing much, because this one is a transformative shade. It does a lot without really seeming like it would. But those two shades don't do much. There are shades that I like. Like I have the gold palette from Natasha Denona. There's these two shades in there called Sparks and Kava, and they're a very similar idea to those two shades. But in the gold palette, while there's a lot of beautiful textures in there, there's a lot of mattes in there too that like you can really spice up the look and give like a really wet look with those mattes by just putting those shimmers, like those suspended shimmers on. So like I do think that like those two shades get a little bit lost in the sauce. So I think that's as much as I want to talk about like shade for shade. But honestly, really, really great. I had a couple people say that they heard or experienced like not having longevity, but I didn't personally experience that. I felt like the eyeshadows wearing nicely over like a normal day. But I would say like if you have oily lids, I would suggest using like glitter primer or something like that that's a little more tacky to just hold them in place, because I do find like the glitter particles, they're the things that like crease up. It's not so much like the pigment that creases up and dissipates. It's like some of the glitter goes away. So you just might need something a little bit more tacky for your base to get some longevity out of it. I want to talk about the packaging, because that was one of my biggest fears whenever I was going through the process of purchasing it, where it's just like, I really don't know about it. I did some size comparisons with this with some other eyeshadows in my original first impressions, because I wanted to like make a point of being like, it's not as big as I thought it was going to be. It's not super weighted. If it was the size I thought it was initially, like if it was the size of a Pat McGrath Mothership palette and really heavy, this would feel bulky as all heck. But because it's really light and easy to pick up, there's something about this that's like less obnoxious to me, and it doesn't really bother me. So I say that as someone who really like was like a kind of appalled by the 3-dimensional printing thing that's on top. It doesn't bother me now that I have it. So if that was something that was like holding you back from buying it, I would say it's not that big of a deal. Because I thought it might be a deal breaker for me, and it hasn't been. Another thing I'd like to mention is that I had a friend over. We were doing makeup playtime. I like set up. We were just like putting makeup on, and I handed them this palette, and I was just like, just try it out, see what you like. And they had the most, like I saw them having just as much fun as I have had every time I pulled this eyeshadow out to play with. You know, it's one of those things where like I had to fight the urge to pick it as my eyeshadow for every time I was doing my makeup, because I just really enjoy playing with it so much. My friend actually ended up getting the palette for their birthday. They tried mine. They texted their partner and they were like, if you're smart, my birthday's coming up and this should be one of my gifts. So they actually got the gift early, and so it's in their possession now. In conclusion, the performance of both ISAMAYA products has really impressed me, but more so, they really inspire me to use them, and they really add a lot of value to my personal collection and my personal use of makeup. Again, I'm going to step back and say this. Just because it does for me doesn't mean it will for you. I have a lot of friends who have been very interested in this palette, and every time I talk about it, they're like, I want that, I want that, I want that. As I said, I think duping out the palette is like a really smart idea to see if this is like a color story that you're gonna be really fond of for a long period of time. And I think giving a palette a month, so if you put that together and play with it for a month and you are so excited about that color story, you wanna play with it, I think it's worthwhile for purchasing if that's what's going to speak to you. But I can sit here and talk about how much I love it, But that's just my relationship to it. It might not be your relationship to it. I am not going to be the beauty influencer that sits in front of you and says like, you will 100% have the same experience as I did with this palette. But it's not. That's not true. Your experience with this could be completely different. Not because the formula is different or because like you got a bad batch or like that, but your feelings about the textures and the colors and the way that things perform, you just might not like that as much as the way that I do. So I try to tell my experience to you as the best as I can, but I don't think I can like flatly say that this product is good or bad, because I feel like whenever I posted my first impressions video, anyone else who had it and was relaying their experience, they were so widely different. And I do feel that comments in that video, a lot of them were leaning negative by the people who got the palette and also were like playing around with it and trying it. But there was also some really people who were really positive. So I do think that the experiences with this are polarizing. Like, I don't think that anyone's gonna buy this and land right in the middle and be like, this was fine. You're either gonna be like, that was worth all $115, or you're gonna be like, I wish I had never bought it. I need you to do some self-reflection, do some work, look at your collection. What are the colors that you're normally pulling out? Are they this swampy, grungy, whatever? Do you not have anything like this in your collection? Will this add value by adding something very different to your collection? These are the things I would like for you to reflect on, because I think hearing a review and hearing someone's experience is oftentimes trying to feed your wants. Because I remember before I tried to have like a healthier relationship with my purchasing, if I wanted something, I would search high and low for a good review about it just to make myself feel better about wanting it and then justifying buying it because one other person liked it. So I don't want you to use my review solely as your reason. What I would suggest to you is I have a couple different videos where I play with the ISAMAYA palette. Check those out. See how it goes for me. Like, I come out of those feeling positive, but if you see me putting on eyeshadow and you're like, I don't really like those colors, like, you know, I don't really like the way that looks, like, I don't want to apply that with my fingers, like, if that's the best way to do it. So yeah, I would seek out like all of my experiences with it and seek out some others. And I hope you land in a more balanced place and are able to think more cognitively about whether or not you want it, rather than just like feeding the fire. I am done. So I also, whenever I'm testing things out, this is obviously like added to my collection permanently, right? This is like my eyeshadow palette. I am gonna hug it. It is mine. I'm excited to have it. I think I will be even more excited to have it in the fall. I think this is gonna be like really great color story in the fall. I'm feeling the fall vibes. It's like really hot out. I have a fan going. I'm wearing long sleeves. I shouldn't be, but like I have this orange lip on. I'm just feeling the fantasy. It's feeling good. Thank you so much for watching. If you are new here and you enjoyed today's video, I would love to have you subscribe. Please, please, please join me. Make sure you vote for me in Best of Pittsburgh. That's linked in the description box below. Reminder, lifestyle influencer, thirst trap, and YouTube account. I'm also on Patreon if you'd like to support me there. And don't forget to like this video if you did. It really helps me quite a bit. And remember to follow your haute and you will find me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye, friends.